We're here with my good friend Rick Clunn, and I usually talk with you about crankbaits, but you're holding some new spinnerbaits right here.
No, well, they're not, Chester, they're not new, but I, at Texoma here recently in the BASSmaster Elite event, my favorite bait's always been a spinnerbait. A lot of people don't know that because of my success has been predominantly on crankbaits. And I got on probably the best spinnerbait bite I've been on in years. And spinnerbait, normally in June, and that's when that tournament was, you think of the water being low, and the fish are moving out deeper, and you would be fishing crankbaits. But we had Texoma was 7 foot high, and when the high water, basically it changed the game. And then that's when the spinnerbait is at its best. Is when you got a lot of flooded high water conditions, and that's what we had. So I picked up my spinnerbait, and I'll be honest with you, it's the most fun tournament I've had in 30 years. Because you'd have to find these flooded green bushes, and you have to find a little spot in them that you could just throw right through the middle of them and come through it with the spinnerbait, and these big ones would just come out of the middle of it I'm always so impressed how good they are at getting the bait in that mass of debris. But there you go. I guess they don't survive if they're not pretty good at getting it. But no, and that's. But the spinnerbait is the trickster. We've had it for a while. That's what makes it unique. You know, there's 10 million spinnerbaits out there. It's what we call the long drop blade. In my career, the two blades I've always enjoyed were the willow leaf and the Indiana. Over time now, I realize the willow leaf catches a lot of number. It's by far the most popular blade out there, but it has the least water displacement of any of the blades. In other words, water displacement is anything that moves through water has to move it out of the way. And the more it moves it, the lateral line of the bass picks it up, and it gives it the illusion that it's bigger than it is. And of course, what does that do? That attracts bigger fish. And so the Indianas and Colorados were always my big fish blades. The willow leaf is when I was burning it and real fast or working it through real thick weeds. But I am still, finally about 10 years ago, I said, golly, I'd like to have the best of both worlds. I'd like to have the long blade like a willow leaf that gives you that flash, but I wanted that water displacement of an Indiana or Colorado, so I developed what was called a long drop blade in the trickster spinnerbait. And it's basically, you can kind of see it there, it's long like a willow leaf, and yet it's got like an Indiana. It's kind of a hybrid between a willow leaf and Indiana. It displaces a lot of water. And in fact, the biggest bass ever caught in the Bassmaster Classic on a spinnerbait, I caught at Lake Toho. It weighed 10 pounds and 11 ounces, and it was caught on this blade. But my point is, willow leaves definitely catch a lot of fish, but it doesn't catch many fish over 5 pounds. You have to go to one of these bigger water displacement blades, and that's what we've tried to achieve with the trickster spinnerbait.